My project will be Community and Visitor Information Center in South Korea. The site is the site is South Korea on the west part, and there is a small island which is about 45 kilometers away from Seoul and 36 kilometers from the Incheon. And this island is interesting because it has really big tides during the day, about 2 times. And as you can see, surrounding context are really beautiful with a good, beautiful landscape. And this is landmark. A lot of people visiting here to see this landmark. And the surface of Earth is really tough and rough. And the driveway is about 2.3 kilometers from mainland. And as you can see, it's open and closed, depends on the tides. And these 2.3 kilometer people sometimes drive and sometimes we walk or riding bicycle. And that's the way to come to the island. So I'm proposing this 2 sites for the community center and visitor center. And which is edge of the island and also the small islands next to the main site. Okay. The population of the island is about 670 people live there, mostly flat land, but and about more than 30% of topography is just mountain area. And here Icelanders are mainly rely on farming and fishing. And usually about 1.5 million people visiting this island throughout the year. As you can see, this is the overall map of the island. And most of private residential area is located below the mountain. And most of public program or semi-public program is located in south or west part of the island. It's due to the fact that people like to go to the south to see this landmark, and also west coast there is a sand beach, so it's attract tourists there. And as you can see, these red dots are public program such as church or like fish markets, police office, and etc. On the other hand, main entrance here where I'm proposing for the project has only one toll gate and also just one fish market. So I'd like to improve this edge condition of the island by providing visitor center. And the west and south and east, these foreshore area is just a muddy area. But the north here is luckily sand and gravel area, so we can construct something. So eventually I'm proposing these 2 sites for the project. Okay. I was interested in this primitive society where they have this sort of spatial order depends on their need. For example, in this enclosure in Cameroon, as you can see, there's one entrance, and there's always chef and 2 guys protecting the entrance. There's a porter and 2 guys protecting chef, and there's first and second, third woman with a shared cooking area or shared communal area. On the right hand here, this photo is Aboriginal village in Taiwan. And as you can see, a cluster of buildings are sharing purpose, and the main central area is community area, so they can discuss or sharing the atmosphere of the village. And also the other one, a village in Cameroon, and also another primitive society village in New Zealand. As you can see, a central place, always some sort of communication going in. And I'm looking at typical community center or public building typology. And as you can see, mainly has big mass as a public purpose. And those programs are subdivided within the one big mass. And other outdoor space is used as a park or other public use. And looking at community center, this American philosopher, she insists that the park is as itself as a considered as a community center. So that's the reason why in lots of community centers in currently they located in the park area. And also previous like some of the public proposed buildings such as church or factory, after they using their origin the original usage, now they converting to a community center, and this one example in Slovakia, and the other factory became community center in Denmark, Netherlands. Sorry. And also the tourism also radically changed from the past. For example, in 18th century, the people worry about to travel, so that they discuss with a physician or historian where to go and where to get the information from. And this second photo is 20th century in Korea. As you can see, they're looking at foreigners with some kind of tension, because local hesitate to see foreigners in that land. But nowadays, with the globalization, the tourism is become really flexible, and people, no matter what race, we all enjoy and sharing the atmosphere. So I like this kind of reducing tension between local and visitors within the island. Looking back to the site, this site has a lot of small pathway which is connected between small island to small island, or landmark to the main island, and sometimes this laneway, like pathway, is blow out because of the water. And as you can see, some people climbing on top of the stones, which is not allowed, to see this beautiful scenery around the landscape and also the sunset. The lighting is really beautiful, and even though it's low tide, all the earth is exposed, but this still reflective surface, so the lighting effect is really beautiful. So I'm thinking of using this kind of small pathway connected, and also the viewpoints of the island. And I was also looking at the sea world, how the nature react on the tides. And as you can see, if water is coming in, the fish is also starting to be active, or if the water is going out, then all the species hiding by themselves to survive. And sometimes some fish are stuck in the concrete path, and and on the other hand, people starting to be more active when it's low tide to catch those fishes and seafood, which is interesting. And also, so the view is really beautiful, as I mentioned, and this is subject site, and I'm analyzing 360-degree of view from sunrise to sunset time, to see how I can use this viewpoint as one of the major parameter for the project. I'll just skip this. Mostly single or double-story houses and flat roof, or sometimes gable roof. So I'm trying to use this sort of neighborhood characteristic for the proposed building sort of typology. And as you might know, Asian country has really strong radiation and also daylight, and especially summertime, the temperature is really high. So, and I'm also really interested in this sort of randomized particles, or the rough surface, which is broken by those stones of the island. And this island surface pretty much made out of these kind of particles of stones. And this second drawing here is artist work, which illustrating the landscape of Korea, which mountain seems like subdivided because of the rice farm, and also we have this sort of beautiful ocean, because our country is peninsula. And this on the right hand side, this is field condition artworks. Why I'm interested in this field condition is that the main entrance and the subject site is really flat, and there's this continuity of landscape from the major mountain range. And as you can see, this site is really flat. So I would like to improve this sort of flattened condition of the site with the field condition of architecture. So this is traditional sort of public building mass, and they have sort of public open space around the main building mass. But I'd like to sort of separate them. For example, one of the mass close to town, I'm proposing community center, and the main entrance of the island I'm proposing for the visitor information center, and the one close to the fish market becomes sort of local market, and in between will be kind of event space. And in the center, I'm thinking of sort of interacting between local and visitors by attracting them with some kind of architecture built environment. So I have subdivided one more time in order to give more public open space. And as you can see, once subdivided one more time, there will be more possibility to have multiple public pocket space. And again, in the central area, I'm interested in sort of interaction between local and visitors. And this sort of segments of buildings are referencing from kind of primitive society, because this kind of a cluster of buildings that is pretty much for the shared purpose, and I think it makes sense for this sort of flattened area, large flattened area. And next, I also looking at sun path. So the major building mass, they are facing to the sun, and it's sloped down to get maximized daylight and also solar energy effect. And in the central area, I'm now shifting up to give different viewpoints. So from the section, as you can see now, the built environment sort of connecting the broken landscape, and also continue towards this small island, which is second site of my proposed building. And also, this central area will have lots of different levels of walk-up pathway, which kind of navigating where people to meet and where people to cross or to go. And also, one of the main paths will connect from this major site to the secondary site. So this about 200 meters of pathway, which will be sink during high tide, but it's kind of remind and memory of how people enter the island. So within this small site, within this spot, I'd like to maximize some sort of entire island atmosphere and experience, so that people who visit, they can also sort of enjoy the atmosphere here, and the locals also not too concentrate on southwest area, but also the main entrance of the island. They can so for the central space, which I'm defining is kind of navigation devices that has kind of these blue bubbles, which I proposed multiple viewpoints, and after that I interpolate these viewpoints to create circulation. At the moment, this is the concept of the central area. Going to the model I'm looking, this is the inland, you can see, and that's 2.3 kilometers of driveway which sink by high tide, or if it's low tide, as you can see, that much of foresail will be exposed during low tide time. And I'm interested in to manipulating this flattened area somehow to the underground or coming up to which is I'm interested in this sort of nature of the species, how they react on the tides, and so there will be lots of sort of fluctuating landscape which I have to develop more, and on top of that, from that diagram, I created like a low part, this kind of segmented building masses, and in the central area we will have the circulation, which I create some kind of sketch. As you can see, these are the different viewpoints I create, and as you can see, those 360 degrees of view have a beautiful landscape. How I create these sort of curves is basically I define lots of possible entrance, and then I use these viewpoints as a attractor points, and then I create 3D vector field, and then the vector field I interpolate those vector field with a curve line, and this is sort of imaginary surface I'm creating in the center. And I'm interested in this central space because it's most communal area and the interaction point between local and visitors. And somehow I'd like to propose like a really open plan. So I was come up with a shell structure which going to support this multiple the walk-up pathway. I have to think about how I can make it more sense for the structure, but I like this sort of large open space with shell structure that welcoming visitors and attract locals to interact. And this sort of large shell structure, actually it's not that big, it's only about 5 to 6 stories of height in this case, and they are supporting walk-up pathway. And here I'm not quite sure I'm proposing this sort of similar segment of building here on the core, but yeah, this geometry I'm not quite sure. So I'm asking now these are sort of feasibility study of the program. As you can see, here will be a kind of community center, and this will be local market, and here will be visitor information center. And when during low tide, this pathway will be open, and we can access to this sort of concert and play public open space. Yeah, so far that's it. I'm mostly interested in this landscape area and also this circulation, because later on what I would like to do is sort of this water, when it's high tide, it will create some sort of water area, a wet area, which could control circulation or could create different atmosphere of the public open space. For example, here the water is coming in, and I'm not sure how often I use it, but at the moment it's like still planning. And when it's going down from this is from view, and when you go down, as you can see, there will be sort of tunnel which connect to the secondary site, and also in between the program, where if some marketplace or exhibition place will have different level of circulation um, in underground, which I think it's interesting to for me it was interesting to reference this sort of nature, the species, how they react the water, and also maybe with the built environment we could also have the similar atmosphere of the island. um, Actually, I would love to make them more as a lamp and instead without any staircase. But when I calculate with maximum 5 meters distance between flat area and ramp with 8.3 maximum slope, it was inevitable to have some sort of staircase. Yeah, but these circulation, they will be somehow recessed in the kind of mass, so it won't be just like circulation, but I have to work more on this sort of circulation part and also landscape area. But yeah, so looking at more sort of tides effect on landscape, which can control or indicating the time of the island, and also the secondary this circulation. Maybe I could propose more cleverly, like in a better way, than just this sort of uh, plan. Okay, thank you very much.